Today on the podcast, we're going to be looking at a few random things. We'll be looking at good health. Yes, I repeat, good health. Then we're also going to look at ways to stay top of mind with your customers and potential clients. Yes, that is also a throwback to something we discussed maybe 2 weeks back. Then we're going to look at a few things parent related. I don't normally talk about, child-parent relationships, but there are some important things we have to talk about from a business perspective. And let's see, what else? Okay, I've already mentioned it. Ways to stay top of mind. So today is a random episode. How do you stay top of mind with your potential customers? Why do we have to worry about good health? Even though on this podcast we are preoccupied with having a good bank account. And then why bother if our children are interested in business or not? So, hello and welcome. My name is Tabashima Ayede. I'm the host of the podcast, making today's recording at home, so there will be noise in the background. Now, if you like jamming about things business, then this podcast is the thing for you. You can subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, or any player of your choice. And if you'd love to connect, you can call, send me a text message, or send me a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. Now, to all the random stuff we're going to talk about on the podcast. Since I mentioned connecting, yesterday was the radio show, and actually all the random stuff I'm talking about actually is, just gist or vibes between, people who called and then some random thoughts. But this is all this stuff is actually things from last week, not from yesterday. But a really interesting thing happened to me yesterday. Really, really interesting. So, you would have been listening to this podcast from day one. Okay, well, at least from January. You will know the scope. Then when I was planning for the radio show and planning for the TV show, oh, by the way, it's as if that TV show, it's as if that thing was not going to click. I don't think it will click at all, but I'll give you guys updates on that. But I don't think I'm going to be on TV as in 2025 as I had planned. That idea doesn't seem to be taking shape. But at least the radio show, that one they move. Or at least I thought it was moving. So yesterday now, I got into the studio, sat down, put on my headphones. Producer counted me down. We lit up the soundboard and I started doing my thing. Now, normally, sometimes, before the phone line is open, people don't begin their buzz, And since that's what happened last week, the week before, people trying to call before time, I said this. So yesterday I said, let me just open the phone lines early. So we opened the phone line and then quiet. I continued to say what I was saying because I was trying to make sense of one or two things. Then I just realized, time don't pass. Like 10 minutes, nobody has called. I repeated again, that is a call-in show. This is the number. Any issue, call in. This kind of issues, call in. You want to call in like this person called in last week, call in. And then I continue talking. After a while, I realized, 15 minutes don't pass. Nobody has called. I said, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? I was now wondering, am I on the air? I look at the switchboard. The thing say live. I look at the producer across in the booth. Producer was carrying on as if we're live, as in nothing happened, no technical difficulty. So I continue to yarn now because I figured I was making sense. More, you won't believe it, though. That's how 50 minutes passed, 5-0. And I had to start winding down the show. Not a single caller. I won't lie, I shook. I say, what is happening? But of course, trust your boy now, as in on the air, I was sounding calm, sounding cool, as if nothing did happen. But inside me, I'm wondering, are people even listening to my radio show? Like, what's happening now? The whole point of this thing was to see how I can use traditional media as a business outreach tool. So, if I am outreaching, but people know they reach back, as in, thing know they move, as in, I won't lie, I shook small. So on the drive back now, I called my brother. By the way, don't talk and drive, but I had hands free. But don't be talking and driving. So I called my brother and, we spoke about it. We said, we'll see what next week brings. I go home, I talk to my wife. She said she was shocked. She said, no problem, let's see what next week brings. And I said, anyway, no, I've committed. This radio show, I will do it at least 1-2 years before I say, let me give up. Because I keep telling you people that whenever you're trying to promote your business and you're trying new avenues, you need to have realistic timeframes. So when it comes to content marketing, because you can say a radio show is almost like content marketing, it does not work as a short-term ploy. So there's no way that you're going to do podcasting, content marketing, building newsletter and all of that you will see any progress in 6 months or 1 year. It's just not possible. Okay, well, it is possible. Some people see those returns, but the much more realistic time frame to have is mid to long term. In other words, 3, 5, and up before you start seeing results on some of these things. So like in Abuja now, those of you who are familiar with Hembe Lembe, the human rights guy, as in he's been doing this since day. So now, where I hear, I'm not sure. So, because I thought this thing is NGO, but I hear that the guy is cashing out. So anyhow, I don't know. But the thing is, he's been doing this for a while. Anywhere you go in Abuja, you say, Hembe Lembe. People say, oh, lo, lo, lo. So the guy has established himself. So this thing takes time. So that's how I say, no problem, we'll continue. The show continues. So I woke up this morning, normal things, brush my teeth, kids, how you get ready for school. And then I laughed at myself small. I said, hey, so Tavishima, it can happen to you. 1 whole hour, not a single caller. A whole you. So no problem, Sha. So we'll drop the kids, do my every, and then I said, okay, time to sit down, let me do some work. Then, of course, part of my routine is, because I like to be high touch with people who get in touch. So those of you who reach out on WhatsApp, it's early in the morning, I respond to your messages. That's the reason why I say anyhow, Sha, 24 hours. Because if you send me a message today, most likely I can't be in the middle of it because I have coaching calls, things like that. So it will be until tomorrow morning. So that's why I say, worst case scenario, 48 hours, you will hear from me. So WhatsApp messages, YouTube comments, LinkedIn messages, SMS, that's when I respond to everything. So I started to respond, and then I checked my YouTube, and then I saw new comments. I said, okay, that's interesting. And then I clicked. And lo and behold, the lady says, it was as if, like, by divine coincidence, I just happened to listen to the radio show at the time. That's the reason why I found you here. So I smiled. And I replied back to her, and I told her, thanks for commenting. But it was a really important lesson because, for those of us who are trying to do things to grow our business, we always look for ways, we always look for metrics and attribution. So I'm on the radio show, and I'm tracking the growth based on the number of people who call, based on the number of people who subscribe to the YouTube channel. So I have metrics, and I'm looking for attribution. And I've heard it before, but we forget. But it's not always that things you do are going to have, what's that word? Attributable returns that you can see. So here was I thinking, oh boy, something's wrong with the communication mast. I'm off my flow. I'm off my steez. As in, people are not feeling the boy today. But then, someone reaches out on YouTube like, oh, I heard, that's the reason why I'm here. Wonderful content, blah, blah, blah. The usual stuff that people say that, boost your ego. I won't lie. When people say, oh, your stuff is great, blah, 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 my head is small. But my head is really big anyway, so there's a limit to how much head swelling I can do. So, before I go into all the things I will talk about today, I've heard it before, and I just want to say it again for those of you who haven't heard it. But let me just let you know, it's not everything that you do that has attributable returns, so don't always lose hope. Sometimes some benefits don't come up in the metrics. Sometimes things lead to opportunities in ways that you do not know. Like in the early days of the podcast, okay, well, for that one, I knew anyway. People were not listening in the early days, but I was using it to leverage for speaking opportunities. If I was talking to someone, all I had to say was, oh, I made an episode of that on my podcast. And really, what's a podcast? I explain, I send a link. Then they open it, and then they say, oh, this guy has done 200 episodes. that kind of thing gives added credibility, makes it easy to secure speaking and coaching gigs, things like that. But, that was a long time ago. So now we've passed that stage because now I have over 1,200 episodes. So you can see that even in the early days, even though the metrics didn't show it, and even though there was nothing I could attribute to it, there were some intangible benefits that I could use, to show credibility. But bottom line, what I'm just trying to say is, it's not all benefits that show up as numbers. And sometimes when you think people are not listening, folks are actually listening. So when things happen, like for me, and you take a blow to the ego, just remember that it's one of those things. You just dust yourself up and you continue. The funny thing is, last week I was telling one of my coaching clients the same thing, because the guy was like, man, like people are not even watching, so why continue? So I had to tell the guy that no be so. That's not how we do it. We wake up every day, you schedule your content, load up that thing and let it fly. We do it on a daily. That the returns come over time. That is not one particular post that is going to make you. That is actually having a solid body of work that compounds over time that is going to make you. That's for those of us who are in the consulting space. So I told the guy that, look, don't lose hope. Just continue. And I had to tell him that, look, even for me, starting off the podcast, the very first one I launched, I thought, people will love this thing. The next day, I opened it. I said, how many people? 4. I said, only 4 listeners. By the way, Gary Vaynerchuk said for his own, the first video that he did, 0. Nobody watched. Then the other one started to gain some viewership. But that first one was 0 for a long time. So for me, it was like that. 4. I said, what's happening? 1, 2. Well, luckily me, I never had 0. And still today, even though I have 1,200 episodes, there's still a few of them that only 4 people have listened. And I'm wondering, how come? Those episodes must be terrible. Anyway, where was I? Don't give up hope when it comes to long-term plays, content marketing, long-form content, what else? Traditional media like this, things like that. So for people who try to get on the TV, because like my classmates, for instance, lawyers who try to get on the TV, don't be surprised if you get on the TV once and you didn't blow, your business didn't blow. It doesn't work that way. You actually have to be on TV consistently for a while. So don't just secure one spot. You're trying to be on TV to boost your business. Try and see how you can lay up a number of spots. The benefit will come if you're on TV consistently, maybe 2 or 3 times a month for the whole year. It is then you can start saying that, okay, this thing will give me business juice or not. Anyway, I've taken more than 10 minutes on that, so let me move on to actually the things I was supposed to talk about today. Now, one of the people who called in last week, Patrick, he called in to say he loved the show, and it was nice to hear that, but he had some health challenges, and so he was asking for prayers. So that's the reason why I say, look, health is really important, and we should desire it greatly, because it helps us to live with vitality. And I just wanted to bring it over here on the podcast, that we should always remember those who are currently not in the best of health. So we should make it a habit to pray for our sick. Now, in the Catholic tradition, we pray for the sick every single Sunday. It's part of the prayers that we have in the prayers of the faithful. Whether we personally know somebody who is sick or not, it's a standard something. We pray for the sick. But it doesn't have to be a Sunday something. Let's remember to pray for the sick every single day. Because it actually sucks when you're trying to build a business and then health is poor. Or you have arrived, you're now on Odogu, but then health is poor. I mean, any which way, health is poor, it's a problem. So for those of you listening to the podcast, whether Christian or Muslim, I just want to ask that one of my listeners, Patrick, not feeling too well, just remember Patrick in your prayers, and by extension to other people who are currently not in the best of health in Nigeria right now. Let's remember to pray for our brothers and our sisters. May God grant us good health now and always. Then, now, how to stay top of mind. Because another caller, Peter from Lugbe, he wanted to know about staying top of mind, because that's what we happened to be discussing at the time. And then also another person, Madam Miriam from Apo, also in Abuja, who sells perfume. I wanted to know ways to remain top of mind. Now, the reason why they reached out was because in that particular radio episode, and I made a podcast episode about that, I was talking about how all this thing about Happy New Month, Happy Wednesday, Happy Sunday, Happy Tuesday, Happy Idil Kadir, Happy Easter, Happy Oktoberfest, Happy Children's Day, that it's a waste of your time. Because it is repetitive, it doesn't add value, people are ignoring the messages, like you're just taking up space in people's box. After a while, people will archive you, so that even when you send genuine message, they won't see it. Because there's some people like that who have been sending Happy Sunday, Happy Sunday, Happy Sunday, Happy Sunday. And then I just tune them out. I archive their messages. So the day that they actually do send a message saying, Tabishima, it's been a while, how have you been? I won't even see it because it's in archive. So it's when I go and clean archive, I'll see the message and say, oh, and now tell them, oh, sorry, my brother, sorry, somehow I missed your message. I won't tell him the truth. The truth is that, look, your messages were rubbish and I got tired of seeing them. So I put you in archive. That's why I didn't see your message 4 months ago. So we were exploring ways to stay top of mind, and that's the reason why Peter from Lugbe and Madam Miriam from Apo called. And I just got overwhelmed. I just got moved in the spirit. I said, you know what, let me teach these people how to use Chat GPT, use AI tools to come up with ideas for staying top of mind on their own. The reason why I'm trying to do that, the reason why I'm doing that actually is because, to be honest, I'm kind of tired of people calling me and asking me for ideas. I've said it lots of times on the podcast, and I've said it lots of times on the radio show. In 2025, coming up with good ideas is not the problem. The problem while your business is stalling is you've not been executing on the small ideas that are there. Because with Google and ChatGPT and all these tools, ideas are cheap. Ideas are a dime a dozen. You can find ideas, all kinds of ideas under the sun to move your business forward. The problem is not the information. The information is there. The problem is you're not executing. So actually, I'm trying to do as much as possible to make sure that people learn how to do research ideas on their own, so that by the time somebody calls me, let them say something like, how do I put it? I want to start this export business. This is my strategy. I've been reaching out to companies in America, but I've not been able to convert. And I think the problem is this. That kind of conversation is sweet. We're solving a specific sales problem. Not somebody calling me up and saying, how can I build my export business in America? Like, that thing is too broad. It can be anything and it can be everything. Now, of course, if you're willing to pay for my time, then sure, no problem. We'll sit down and we'll brainstorm. But apart from that, these tools are readily available. So I was led by the Spirit. I said, let me teach these people how to use ChatGPT. And that's what I did last week. And so we're going to explore some of that here. I made a podcast episode about it before, but it was general. Now, let me show you how a live case scenario. I did this one live on the radio. So no be say them. No time for preparation. As I was moved, we just did it on the air like that. But before I move on to that, there was another person called Wesite. The name sounds strange, but don't worry, it's from my side. That's how our names sound. They sound exotic, as some people say. So Wesite, she called from Gariki and had a question about her mom's business, but then the line dropped. But either way, the thing it lifted my spirit. Because it's always cool when children call on the radio show. It just lifts the mood. You guys can be talking something serious, but then the child comes and then, all of a sudden, all of us just, happy. Everybody begin to smile. Producer is smiling. Me, I'm smiling. I know that people on the radio, all of them, everybody just smiling because the child called in. So, even though we lost that call, I just wanted to let people know that it was good that this girl is concerned about mom's business. Well, first of all, safety. Nigeria is, Nigeria is rough these days, so we all have to be safety conscious. So I said it, not just for the benefit of Wesite, but for other children who are there, that, calling strangers is okay, but we always need to make sure that we have the permission of a parent to do that first. Because I didn't ask her live on the air, did Momsy say you can call? Let me not put her in trouble. But I just put it out there, Sha, that it's nice that kids call in. So far, 2 children have called into my radio show. So it's nice that children call in. Always remember, we have to be safety conscious. You take permission from Momsy and Popsy first before you pick up the phone, and then before you call a stranger. Also, be careful not to give off any personal details over the air, because children are not as security conscious as us. That's how one day we were outside And then my son was like, "Oh, my sister before she died," and I was like, "Look, calm down. Like, you just met these dudes. You don't start telling everybody our family business like that. Yeah, I told you about your dead sister. It doesn't mean you have to tell every single person. So they just keep saying stuff. And like one of my neighbors, how the boy kept on going on about how the father has built in the mansion in Jos, and they have swimming pool, they have badminton court. So at some point I had to come and say, like homie, calm down. Nigeria is not like that. You don't go around telling people that this is what Popsy has. Like, between you and me, we're neighbors, so it's cool. But you don't go around telling everybody like that. So children, they can run their mouth. So for those of you that have kids, please be having this conversation with your children. Please be having it. It's not everything you be saying in the outside. So that security element, I got it out of the way. Then, and I also said it's a good thing that families are listening to content like this, as a family. So I'm tripped that there are families where Momsy and Popsy are listening to a show. My show is called the Business Booster Show on radio, and then the children are listening as well. So I mean that is good. That is really, really, really sweet. And so I just said that I should let parents know that we need to do more of these kind of things with our kids, where it is age appropriate. Get them to listen to a show, get them to watch one or two things, maybe even get them to read a book or two. Because like in my own case, me and Popsy, it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He gave it to me, he gave it to my brother. He said, "We should go and read." And then the usual fashion, he said, "What was the book about?" And I'm like, "I don't know," because, the thing was big. It was like 250 pages. So he started asking us specific questions. What is the difference between an asset and a liability? That's how those conversations started. I remember very well. He said, "This watch I'm wearing is golden, right?" "Yes, Dad." "Expensive, right?" "Yes, Dad." "Looks cool, right?" Yes, Daddy." "Is this thing an asset?" "I don't know." We started having that conversation. This wristwatch, is it an asset? This car, is it an asset? This house we live in, is it an asset? What are assets? How do you acquire assets? That's how the thing started. Then from there, cash flow quadrant. What did the guy say about how you make money? What are the 4 different ways of making money? And then he gave me a very stern warning. That at that time, because at that time he only had one source of income. I was still small then. He gave me a stern warning. He said, "Don't you ever make the mistake that I've made." I said, "Yes, Daddy." He said, "What mistake did I make?" I said, "I don't know, Daddy." He said, "I only have one source of income. Do you hear me?" I said, "Yes, Daddy." "Don't you ever make that mistake." Now, later on, he will go on and do a bunch of stuff. Anyway, let me not list it down here. But he will go on and do a bunch of things. Some things work, some things, didn't work. But I've never forgotten that stern warning. So, small things like this, for those of us who have children, if it's a radio show, it sounds decent. My own show is sales and marketing. There'll be nothing that will be inappropriate for children. You try. Sometimes it will be some kind of films around business. You let your kids watch. You invite them. Podcasts. I play podcasts for my kids, but not business podcasts, because they can't stand business podcasts. As far as they're concerned, they like the science fiction stuff. So that's where we are at now. By the time they enter teenage years, I'll now start chuking 1 or 2 business podcasts. But avenues for conversations like this. So really, really, really important for those of us who have kids. Let's start this thing early. We don't have to do it too much, because if you overdo, with this, if you overdo, your child will hate these things. You see? So my father didn't give us a stack of 50 books. It was just one book. He said, "This is a story about a boy who had 2 fathers. Go and read it." That's the angle that my father came from. And we took it and we read. And funny enough, for my brother and I, it's just one of those things. As far as we're concerned, every Nigerian child should read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Some of you will say the story is made up, it's not real. Look, I don't care. All right? In the Christian tradition, we're aware of parables. So if the story is a parable, that's beside the point. The guy is trying to communicate something that is true for all times and for all societies. So whether he actually had 2 dads, a rich dad and a poor dad, is besides the point. Some people say it's a parable. It's a parable. Read the parable. Did you get the message? Anyway, it's been 24 minutes. I don't want this to be an hour episode, so let me just stop here. So in the next podcast episode, we'll now go into how to stay top of mind and how with Madam Miriam, we came up with ideas that you could use to stay top of mind with our potential customers on WhatsApp. Instead of sending Happy New Month, Happy Birthday, Happy Easter, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Halloween, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Independence, Happy Children's Day, Happy Sunday, all that happy stuff. So we'll do all of that in the next podcast episode. So remember, if you'd love to connect, you can call, send me a text message or a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. Thanks for your time and attention. I will catch you next time. Same place, in your headphones or in your speakers. And remember, don't lose hope in this content game. Some days are up, some days are down. That's where they be. The how will I put it? The goal, the yardstick is how well are we doing over time. So don't be discouraged. So talk to you guys next episode.